excited about having Jackie speak to us, who will be providing invaluable information to our ADHD community. And thank you all for attending this lecture and all the other ones that you have for this lecture, for this resource fair. The mission of Northern Virginia and DC chapter CHAD National is to improve the lives of children and adults who are affected with ADHD. Founded in 1987, CHAD grew from a parent support group that was trying to change the frustration and isolation that the children felt to the leading nonprofit national organization for children and adults with ADHD. Today, ADHD is medically and legally recognized as a treatable yet potentially serious disorder affecting up to 9% of all children and approximately 4% of adults. Our chapter, one of the many chapters of this national organization, aligns with the national mission of improving the lives of those affected with ADHD. We are a volunteer organization of trained professionals who offer support in numerous ways. We offer a free monthly lecture series on the second Tuesday evening of most months. We have support groups for parents, students, and adults. We have a yearly resource fair, previously in person, but this year we are spanning the 4 weeks of ADHD Awareness Month with our virtual lectures, which hopefully you visited and were able to enjoy, and individual support that we provide through our responses to your email inquiries. While we're all volunteers, we cover other expenses through membership, dues, donations, and sponsorship. If you believe that our cause to have the funds to do so, we urge you to become a member if you're not already one. Tonight, we would like to take a moment to highlight and thank some of our sponsors. Neurodiverse Universe Life and Executive Function Coaching. Ann Sabah is a certified life and executive function coach. The name of her coaching practice is Neurodiverse Universe Life and Executive Function Coaching, which serves individuals on the autism spectrum with ADD and ADHD and other neurodiverse traits. She helps clients build their executive function skills such as planning and organization, and emotional intelligence skills such as emotional regulation and self-advocacy. Summit Camp and Travel is a therapeutically designed sleepaway summer camp and travel program organized to meet the social and emotional needs of our special population and their families. Summit is in its fifth decade, serving special needs boys and girls ages 8 to 23. Their programs serve children of average to above average intelligence who have had a variety of developmental, social, emotional, and learning issues. The mission of all of their programs is to provide the children a safe, happy, and enriching time, offering their families a secure respite. Fairfax Therapy Solutions was founded by Deborah O'Brien, LCSW. They provide therapy for individuals, children, and adolescents who struggle with emotional and relationship difficulties. Their specializations are anxiety disorders, divorce issues, autism, ADHD, anger management, and drug and alcohol addiction. Each one of their professionals each one of them is unique, so their individualized approach embraces that uniqueness and uses it as a guide to the sessions. Solutions for life challenging situation is their focus. Child Help. The Village of Child Help provides residential treatment for children ages 5 to 14 on a 270-acre horse farm. Child Help is a VA, Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia Medicaid provider and is also accredited by the Joint Commission. ACTV serves 67 children in their PRFT and 13 in the day school programs. The Village provides a therapeutic program utilizing an interdisciplinary approach, specializing in the treatment of mild to severe trauma or neglect, psychiatric disorders, and sensory disorders, and has 2 full-time child psychiatrists as well as 24-hour nursing staff. Therapeutic programs include music, art, equine, small animal, horticultural, and OT. They accept TRICARE, VA, West Virginia, PA, and Maryland Medicaid and CSA funding. And last but not least is Crossroads Family Counseling. They provide counseling for children, adolescents, families, and adults in the Fairfax area. They specialize in play and expressive therapies, and they're currently seeing their clients in person and also telehealth. So, thank you for that. And now it's time to introduce our speaker. Jackie Woodside is a certified professional coach and licensed psychotherapist with over 25 years of experience in both fields. Jackie trains coaches from all over the U.S. to deliver the transformational curriculum that she has written and developed over the past 15 years. She has authored 3 best-selling books: Money Vibe, Your Financial Freedom Formula, Calming the Chaos, Managing Your Energy Rather Than Your Time, and Time for a Change, Inc. Magazine selected her book. Oh, I'm sorry, this is so crazy. I'm sorry, I'm reading this wrong. Inc. magazine selected her book, Calming the Chaos, as one of the top 10 motivational books. And so without further ado, I introduce Jackie Woodside.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the warm welcome, and thank you for the invitation to do this. It's always exciting and an honor to be able to speak to all of you. So for those of you that are joining me this evening to spend some time together, I just want to thank you. And my commitment is to make this time really super valuable for you. Oh God, everybody's off the screen. If one or two of 3 of you could turn on your video, otherwise I feel like a dork talking to myself. This is not my first webinar, I promise you, but I always make that request. Thank you, Patricia. And you know, if 1 or 2 of you don't mind being on screen, that would be awesomely helpful. And if not, fine, whatever, I'll just roll with it. So, what'd you say?
The meeting organizer has to put our pictures back on. We didn't take them off.
Oh, got it. Thank you for telling me that. So I'm not sure who's running this. We cannot turn it on. Okay, got it. I'm just going to go with it then.
So Jackie, if anybody wants to put their name in the chat and say, turn on my camera, then we can do that.
It just, you know, thank you. It just helps. I'm sure you guys, those of you who have done public speaking or lead programs, know that it's just so much more fluid to feel like you're talking to people rather than talking to yourself. So, but either way, that's fine. So, and you know, as part of the introduction tonight, I also want to add, I don't just have a professional relationship with ADHD and the challenges that can bring. I was diagnosed with adult ADHD by the man who wrote the book on adult ADHD. How many know who that is? Throw it in the Ned Hallowell. There you go, Susan. You're on mute, but I could read your lips. Exactly right. So Ned Hallowell, his center is in Sudbury, Massachusetts, which is about 6 miles from my home. So in Marlborough, Massachusetts. So fortunately, or unfortunately, as the case may be, I'm not sure, I was seen by Ned Hallowell. And I did think to myself, like, what are the chances that you walk into a clinic designed to diagnose people with ADHD and you don't walk out of there with a diagnosis of ADHD? But I highly respect the work of the Hallowell Center, and you know, many years ago, gosh, probably 18 years ago, was put on Adderall. Love that stuff. It was incredibly helpful. But I also have a commitment to believing that you can use your mind to train your brain and reprogram yourself. So it was about a year or so after being put on medication for ADHD that I developed this program called Calming the Chaos. So I do not, you know, if you're on medication for ADHD, stay on medication. I'm not saying that using this approach is going to be your solving, you know, remedy for what ails you. I am not saying that. Do what your providers say. And for me, really going a deep dive into understanding how to use your mind to train your brain and working incredibly diligently, writing a program, writing a book, teaching this to like literally hundreds of thousands of people over the last 15 years, I am no longer on medication. So that's I think that's probably, you know, one of my biggest credentials. If that's not enough, I'm also raising a 15-year-old son who also has ADHD and dyslexia and is neurodiverse. So I am up to my eyeballs in this topic. My son was at the Lab School of Washington, D.C. for several years, and now he's at the Landmark School in Beverly, Massachusetts. So let's just say that not a day goes by that I'm not involved in some way in either dealing with my own neurology or my son's neurology, and this whole topic of what it's like living with a neurodiverse, exciting, stimulating, wanting more kind of brain. So that's a little bit more on the personal side about me. I don't always include that as part of my my introduction, although often when I'm speaking on the topic of calming the chaos, I often will include that I'm speaking both as a practitioner and an author, but also as a person living with this diagnosis and raising a teenager with this diagnosis. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So before I do that, let me just say a couple things about tonight. So I have a huge commitment tonight to make an incredible difference for each and every one of you who are spending your time with me this evening. An incredible difference in terms of how you experience yourself as an active agent in calming the chaos in your life. Like, obviously you're here because you saw something in that title that spoke to you. It was a great title, actually, for a book. My publisher came up with it. It wasn't me. But that really is, you know, what did I used to? I used to call it energy management, managing your energy, not your time. But the publisher's like, that's too woo-woo or too whatever, and he didn't like it, so fine, whatever. But it really is about developing the skill set, mindset, and tool set to learn how to manage what's happening in your life. One of the things I say in this program, if you're going to take notes, write this one down, that there is no such thing as time management. You know, I do a lot of work in corporations or businesses, and people will hire me to come in to be the, quote, time management or the stress management expert. And so let's just say right off the beginning, this is not a time management program. However, I will be talking about how to manage yourself in time. So it's an interesting flip on an old notion. You can't manage time. Time is going to do what time does, right? You know, we could sit here until 8:30 and do absolutely nothing. I could sing and dance and entertain you wildly, but that's not going to make any difference in your life. Or we can get actively engaged in principles that are really interesting and empowering, and maybe some new thoughts and new ideas for yourself that can actually make a difference in your life. The same 90 minutes will occur. So time is not the variable. The variable is what you bring to the time that you have, right? So there's no, so I was saying, there's no such thing as time management. I don't know if that's the good news or the bad news, right? All there is really is self-management. And that's where the rubber hits the road. There's no such thing as time management. There is only self-management. So the question that we're going to be looking at tonight, and again, I don't know if this is good news or bad news. Maybe some of you want to be like, yeah, never mind, I'll go watch The Voice or something. But what we're going to be delving into tonight is, what's your capacity for self-management? And where can you enhance and empower yourself more fully to be a person who's living with a high degree of self-management? And the more that you train yourself, use your mind to train your brain and develop a skill set around managing yourself, then what will happen is you'll become a less stressed, more effective human being. Great, Lisa, thank you. I see the note down there. All right, I'm all in. All right, well, let me start the presentation. I will say, as I'm pulling up my presentation, that my style is, as you can tell already, probably a little informal and very very interactive, less than didactic. So if you have questions throughout the presentation, just go ahead and pop them in the chat, and I'll do my best to address them as we go along. And if you want to just write it down for yourself, that's certainly fine as well, and then hold it to the end of the presentation. All right, but I love hearing your questions throughout. So calming the chaos is what we're going to be talking about tonight. As you heard in the introduction, I've written a book and a coaching program around this topic. A few years ago. I've been teaching the program for about 15 years. I wrote the book about 5 years ago. So let's talk about the need for this program, the need for this kind of thinking, or a new approach to managing self and time. So this is a statistic or a quote from Dr. Brene Brown. Many of you probably know, a social worker from the University of Houston, Texas. A statistic that I certainly could have lived my whole life without ever needing to know. Thank you very much. But the statistic is, we are the most overweight, over-medicated, addicted generation in history. That, when I heard that from her several years ago, I was like, that is really striking to me. And, one of the things that it points to and what it tells me is that the way that we're living and working isn't working. Right? The way that we're experiencing and creating our culture and our society right now in this era, not like I'm telling you anything, but it's not working. So one of I'm going to ask you a little quiz here. What's the number one cause for anxiety, depression, burnout, divorce, marital problems, cardiovascular disease, low energy, lack of enjoyment, ennui, if you will, that French word, that sense of the blues? What do you think? Just go ahead and throw some ideas in the chat there. I want to get you guys engaged and get you on the court. Where's the chat? There it is. Chat. Perfect. Sense of purposelessness, powerlessness. No, that's my life design course. That's a different course, not the one I'm speaking on tonight. Lack of control, avoidance behavior. Absolutely. Lack of family. Oh, that's heartbreaking. Isolation, lack of closeness. All right, well, you guys are spot on, a little, very, very accurate. However, what the research actually shows is there's one thing that links all of these, the number one cause behind all of these different symptoms, and it is this. It is simply stress. People living with an inordinate experience of ongoing chronic feelings of stress, overwhelm, too much to do, I can't keep up with things, feeling driven, feeling like you're, like you have a motor running inside of you. You've all heard that diagnostic before. And don't you love that little visual, by the way? So, this is kind of how we all feel sometimes, right? I just want to put my head down and go under the covers. So stress in our culture, we're the most overweight, over-addicted, over-medicated generation in history. We are dealing with highest levels of anxiety, depression, marital separation, marital stress, financial stress. People are stressed out. So what do we do with this? I like to say it's time for a change. It's time for a new way of thinking, because the paradigm, actually, you may not know this because you don't study this field like I do, but the whole notion of time management was actually developed in the 1970s. It was developed in the 1970s. So just imagine, right, if you were wearing the same clothes today that you were wearing in the 70s, driving the same car as you were driving in the 70s, things have changed, and yet our understanding of how to navigate what's happening in our world has not really evolved in the same degree, not even to mention the amount of data that is coming at us, every year. The amount of data that enters into the world is exponentially, it doubles itself every year. There's so much data. We are constantly inundated and stimulated. All of this neurologically adds to the stress that we feel. So we're under all of these cultural influences. So I guess I want to begin this program by saying to you, I want to be sure that none of you are on this meeting tonight feeling like, oh, what's wrong with me? I wish I were stronger. I wish I was doing this better. It's not you. You're fine. It's that I like to say that our neurology has not kept up with the pace of technology. Our neurology has not kept up with the pace of technology. So the technological advances that we have experienced over the last 10, 15, 20 years has been astounding how different our world is. And yet our neurology has not yet adapted as quickly as the rate of technology. So what I say about that is, I use this phrase, it's hell in the hallway. The old way, the door is closed. But the new way, the new neurology is not yet here. So, if everybody can be sure you're on mute, I can hear some background noise. So it's hell in the hallway, and we're the hallway generation. The old door's closed. We're not going to go to a world where there's, technologies behind us and that much data or that much stimulation that's not happening. And yet we, particularly our generation, or, people older than us and maybe a little bit younger than us, but our age group in particular, we were not raised with this. This is not how our brain was programmed. So really what we're talking about is developing a new neurological approach to deal with the pace and the demands and the expectations that we're living with. Okay, so that's by way of introduction. So tonight what we're going to be dealing with are 3 different areas that I like to focus on in this training. And that is this: it's mindset, skill set, and tool set. So I want to say a little bit about this. So notice the mindset is at the bottom, so which to me is the foundation. It is the most important aspect, because if you are taught a new set of skills, like, and many of you, how many of you have done a time management workshop before? Or maybe a couple time management workshops, right? And yet you still end up with this feeling of like, you know, just completely feeling overwhelmed and feeling like it's too much. So even though you've been given a skill set, if you don't address the mindset that underlies that skill set, your skills will revert back to be combined with what you believe about life. So if you believe, oh, it's too much and I can't keep up, and you know, I don't have what it takes, or whatever, you know, if you have that mindset of I don't have enough time or it's just too much, you can add skills to that forever, but eventually your mindset will take over. Does that make sense? Similarly, if you change your mindset, you know, you go to a kumbaya weekend retreat, and you know, you feel better about life, maybe you have a sense of self-empowerment, but you don't add skills to it. You only change your mindset and you don't add skills to it, sooner or later, you're going to end up feeling like crap again because you don't have the skills to manage all of that. So coaches or trainers that teach just skill set without addressing mindset are doing a tremendous disservice. And inspirational speakers that just teach mindset, that don't teach skills to go with it, are also doing a disservice. So you have to put these two together. And then also, it's really nice to have some tools that go along with it to bolster and support the skills that you're using. So basically tonight, what we're going to be talking about is, you know, the only thing you have to address is how you think, what you do, and what you do it with. Other than that, it's all good. Right? So it's a big topic. Right? You get my tongue-in-cheek approach here. It's a big topic, but it's a super, super important topic for you to understand. That's what we're dealing with: mindset, skill set, and tool set. All right, you ready? Dive in? Here we go. First one I like to talk about: mindset. Mindset is the foundation of this. If you don't address your mindset, all of the skills in the world are not going to make you feel better. All right, so let's deal with that first. What I like to say about the mindset piece is what's important here is for you to learn to manage your personal energy rather than manage time or manage stress, right? So what do you mean by that, Jackie, personal energy? So I want to be clear, I don't mean vitality. I don't mean go get a fitness coach. I don't necessarily mean go to bed earlier, although we all know that that's an important element and something that you have to take care of, right? What I mean by managing your energy is really managing your inner world of beliefs and emotions and attitudes and thoughts and your perceptions and interpretations. Your inner world is what I call your personal energy, okay? We're going to go into that a little bit more. So I'm going to give you a little quiz. You can just type your answers in the chat right now, actually. What do you most often say about time? Just go ahead, and for those of you that want to play along, just go ahead and use on your menu bar. You'll see, we didn't introduce how to use Zoom, which I'm sure at this point of 8-9 months into this pandemic, everyone has had experience with it. So just on your menu bar, there's a chat, and then you just pull that up. So what do you most often say about time? Let me see what some people are saying here. It's arbitrary. I don't have enough, never enough, never enough, never enough. I'm trying to finish X. Why do I feel so rushed? I don't have enough time. Exactly right, right? So notice that. Oops, sorry. Notice that. Notice that that's part of your experience with time. Now, the next one that I want to ask you, I've got to get there. How do you often feel about what you have to do? Just one or two words. Oh, I've got this to do. How do you most often feel about what you have to do? Again, I'm going to go back to the chat. Yeah, stressed, overwhelmed, it's too much. Excited, but also overwhelmed. Yep, I'm in that camp as well. Dread. Thank you for being honest, Lisa. Overwhelmed, too many interruptions. Yeah, so, right? You get it? Notice the level of overwhelm, and it's too much, and blah, 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 blah. Last one. What do you often say? Oops. how do you often feel about what you have to do? What do you often say about what you have to do? All right, we've covered both of those. So you get my point. So notice, just right now, take a snapshot right this second about what we just talked about and what we just thought about and how you feel right this minute. Do you notice that your personal energy feels a little low, a little heavy right now? Can you feel that in your body? A little sense of like, good Lord, what did I sign up to this webinar for? That, I'm just checking, see what people are saying about that. Hold on. You feel a little bit lost. Happy to be here and participating. Thank you. Yeah, it's hard to put up personal boundaries just on myself. I'm not exactly sure what you mean about that, Allison. Carla, if you feel lost about what I'm saying, I hope that's not the case, but feel free to pop a question in there if you are. I think you mean just feel lost because it's all so much. Carla, good. No, that's not what you meant. Okay, good. I always think new advice will work. You know, new advice is helpful, but let me be clear. Things don't change, people do. Things don't change, people do. So new advice is helpful. I mean, I'm kind of in the advice business as a trainer and a professional coach. But things don't change, people do. So my charge to you tonight is to not just be in this webinar like it's more advice or more information, but it's information for you to put into your life, right? So if you can grab a buddy, maybe some of you know on this webinar know each other, you know, send a private message to each other and actually sit down to go through the notes again, because I'm going to teach you some strategies tonight that I think will really make a difference in how you experience this sense of chaos and overwhelm, okay? All right, sorry, I need to move some things. Thank you, Susan, that's really sweet. All right, good. All right, so I want to talk a little bit tonight about a new mindset paradigm, because, so I think I just made it clear to you, but let me just emphasize the point. The mindset that you currently have is part of the problem, right? When you walk around and what you primarily say about time is, oh, I don't have enough time. What are you creating for yourself? You're creating a scarcity of time. You're creating stress. Now, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but honestly, that's not true. It's not true. How do I know? Because you are here. You are on this webinar. That means you have time. Otherwise, we'd be visiting you some other place. So you have time. The question isn't time. The question is, how are you using the resource of time that you have? How are you managing yourself in relation to the time, the available time that you have? Now, look, I am not saying that I don't think that you have more to do than you have the time allotted for. That may very well be true. I also have a teenage son. I'm running a business. I have an 83-year-old mother with dementia who's living alone, who's 8 hours away from me. So I got all that going on as well. I get it. There may be more to do than you actually have the time allotted for, but I don't have time is not true. So I invite you to take that out of your vocabulary.
Home is better than ever.
Should I sing along? Okay, good. I think you've got that handled. Thank you, moderators who are monitoring the mute for me. I appreciate that. Where was I? Oh, so I invite you to take that out of your vocabulary. I don't have time. And here's what I encourage you to use instead. So I'm going to always give you tips. If I'm asking you to make a change, I'm going to give you a tip on how to do it. What I say is, I'm not choosing to use my time that way. I'm not choosing to use my time that way. It's just a more empowering statement about the reality that you have other things that you're committed to. Yes, I'd love to do that. Or man, I wish I could do that. But I'm just not using my time that way right now. Okay? So it's just a little bit of a change. But the point is, and I'm going to go further with this topic, but the point here is what we need is a new mindset paradigm. The one you have isn't working. Now, I'm not saying that to be a downer. We just got to start where we are, right? But when you walk around and I don't have enough time, it's all too much, I'm overwhelmed all the time, your mindset then creates that out in the world. And you end up saying yes when you mean no. And even on an afternoon when maybe you don't have any meetings or you don't have anything scheduled, you end up whiling away the time being busy, not productive. We're going to talk about that topic in a little bit as well. Just tuck that away, right? Notice what I said. You while away the time being busy and not productive. Why? Because you have a belief that I don't have enough time. I'm living in chronic stress. When that's the foundation of how you're approaching life and approaching time, you will continue to create the conditions that bring more stress into your life. That feel like, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time. So the fix, now again, look, it's not like changing this one sentence is going to change your life. It's not. We're going to build on this here, right? But stop saying I don't have time. Add the phrase, I'm just not choosing to spend my time that way. Doesn't that feel better? It's a much more empowered statement that puts you at the center of control rather than as the victim of your circumstances. Okay? So what do I mean by a new mindset paradigm? Our culture is very, very psychologized. We think a lot through the lens of psychology. And I actually am interested in a new paradigm that I think is very groundbreaking, and that is consciousness studies. Rather than looking at, this is what happened in the past and therefore I am this way, consciousness says, who are you in the moment and where are you going? I'm going to give a little definition of consciousness here because I really want you to understand it. Because this whole notion of manage your personal energy rather than your time and stress. When I say that, what I really mean is manage your consciousness, manage your mindset. So in the work that I do in all of my books, actually, 2 of my 3 books have this topic in it, this topic of consciousness. And how I define consciousness is the vibratory pattern that gets created by your beliefs, emotions, attitudes, and thoughts. The vibratory pattern created by your beliefs, emotions, attitudes, and thoughts. Just so you guys know, I see some of you taking notes, and thank you, I appreciate that. You will have this PowerPoint available afterwards. So yeah, you can have these slides. Yeah, you're welcome. So what is personal energy? What I'm talking about here is what we colloquially say is your vibe. You know how you go into a party and you see somebody across the room and immediately you're like, I don't know what it is about her. I really like her vibe. Yeah, I just really like her. And then you get talking and you actually find out you have a lot in common. You think the same way. You maybe share some same values. So this may sound a little bit woo-woo, but there's actually a lot of science behind this, that the way that you think can be measured through an electroencephalogram, or even today, an electromagnetogram that does not even need wires on your head, that can watch your brain patterning, right? So that's what I'm talking about. And then your emotions can be measured through an EKG. So this is actually based in science, that the way that you think and the way that you feel creates a vibe. It creates your vibe. That party, maybe you see somebody else on the other side of the room and immediately you're like, I don't know what it is about that dude, but I don't feel that comfortable around them. We use that, I just don't like his vibe. I don't like her vibe. We use that phrase all the time, don't we? But we didn't actually understand that there's science behind it. So notice that it is the vibratory pattern created by your beliefs, emotions, attitudes, and thoughts. If you notice, that's a little acronym. I say your beat creates your vibe, which creates your life. So fundamentally, I'm giving you a framework here to understand that mindset is more than just think happy thoughts. It is much, much more involved than that. I am seeing a ton of questions on the chat. Let me just see what people are saying. Wow, how neat it is to kind of test to be incorporated in healthcare, so neat. If only else, oh my goodness, there's so much up here. DBT, mindfulness, awareness. Power of language is so empowering. This is so great. You guys are right with me. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Hard to slow myself down and put up boundaries. Yes, managing ourselves versus managing time. I really do get that. I'm one of those yes to life kind of people too. And you just have to recognize that every yes is a no to something else. It's not good or bad. But if you say, yes, I'm going to be on that committee, that means at least one evening a week or a month or whatever, you're not going to be exercising at home with your family, writing your book, working on your music, whatever. Every yes is a no to something else. And I say, don't let your yeses be a no to your peace of mind. Did you get that? Don't let your yeses in life be a no to your peace of mind, because if you are a yes to everything, you will be saying no to your peace of mind. How many of you can relate? Right? I mean, it's the blessing and the curse of being kind of a high consciousness, high vibe, high enthusiasm, high intelligence, high curiosity kind of person. It's like, oh yeah, I can do that. Oh, that would be great. I would like to do that. And then you get to the point where too much of anything is no longer a good thing. Right? Ice cream's great unless you eat a half gallon of it. Glass of wine's great. Case of wine, not so much. It'll kill you. Right? So it's the same thing with your yes and no's. You say no to everything and you're going to have a very small, disengaged life. You say yes to everything and you're going to be living in overwhelm. I use overwhelm as a noun, by the way. I had someone point that out to me, like, I've never heard overwhelm used as a noun before. All right, so your consciousness is the vibratory pattern of your inner world, just to keep it simple. The way that you think about time creates your experience of time. The way that you speak about time creates your experience of time, or to-dos, like this whole realm, right, that we're talking about. So I've created a 4-level model to help people actually assess, where is my inner world right now? And, I can say, what level of consciousness are you living in? Or what vibe is that? So let me just show this to you. It's pretty involved, but I'm going to let me just talk you through it, right? So it's a 4-level of consciousness or vibratory vibe model that at the bottom of it, you see on the right-hand side, it says survival. So I call that survival consciousness, when you're just like, just giving up and pissed off and it's all too much. So why bother? Like fundamentally, it's like that. It's like, it's too hard. Why bother? So there's resignation, there's apathy, there's anger. And you notice in the middle of the spiral, it says fully outer, meaning the perspective of the person is that the problem is out there. Look, it's not me. It's the economy. It's the politics. It's my boss. It's my kids. It's my spouse. And if you try to say to someone who lives in that mindset, hey, did you ever try this? Hey, have you ever thought of that? You can probably answer what I'm going to say right now, right? What do they say to you? Oh, that won't work. Because it is the mindset that people like that live in. Now, I'm going to guess that none of you on this webinar right now live in that level of consciousness, because you are here looking for help. You are here engaged in dialogue about this. So I know you have moments of it. I probably did about, 4 hours ago, driving home with my kid after school, like had some survival consciousness going on. I'm like, God, it's just too much. I can't even, right? We all have moments of it. It's fine. Part of the human condition, but you don't have to live there, right? So the next level of consciousness, this is where most of mainstream America is living, is kind of somewhere between these two, actually, is what I call stress consciousness. And that's this, like, I'm driven, I'm overwhelmed, I've got too much going on. And it's like, it's too much, but I got to keep up. It's too much, but I want to contribute. It's too much, but I got to survive. So there's that sense of like kind of doing it all, it's beyond the like, oh, forget it, it's too much and I give up. It's like, it's too much and I got to do more. I have to make things better for myself. And how I try to do that leaves me with this feeling of like, anxious and driven and kind of chronically stressed. This is where most of mainstream, kind of high survival, low stress, between those two is where mainstream America lives, based on the research of Dr. David Hawkins. So, and notice in the middle there, it says outer, not fully outer. So then now there's some sense of like, okay, maybe there's some things I need to do here. Maybe there's some things I need to change. Okay. And then moving up the consciousness model, you see the next level is transformation. And this is the first place that people actually start recognizing like, maybe it's up to me. They have a sense of clarity of where I want to go and how I want to experience life. Therefore, a sense of optimism and hope that things can be better. And then the highest level, I don't even really go into this too much in my teaching, level of transcendence, which is just living in this space of unconditional love and peace and joy and equanimity, recognizing it's all a game, so what am I so worried about anyway, right? So I'm not going to do a whole lot on that. But you can see, though, like, just kind of having this laid out in front of you, that people do really kind of move between these different experiences in life. That's what the arrow in the middle means, that you're not always living all the time in one of these areas, but it's a fluid experience. And the question that you can ask yourself when you catch yourself, right, in that survival mindset or in that stress consciousness is, do I have to experience it this way? What else can I say to myself? How do I want to feel? This is how you interrupt and begin changing the neural pathways that are established in your mind, in your brain, actually, that are established in your brain. I use the phrase, use your mind to train your brain, meaning use your ability to observe and talk to yourself, mindfulness, as someone put in the chat. Use your ability to observe and talk to yourself, your higher mind, your wiser mind, to raise yourself out of survival to stress, to a sense of hope, optimism, and clarity. This is what I mean by learning to manage your energy rather than manage your time. Let me just take a peek at the chat. Yes, self-awareness. That's a great question, Patricia. So I am talking about self-awareness, but how most people define self-awareness to themselves is, I'm very aware that what you did or said upsets me. I'm very aware that, that really ticked me off. I'm really aware that when you said that, I felt hurt. So what I like to teach about managing your inner world, your consciousness, is not, I'm aware that I feel upset by what you did, but what is it about me that I'm upset? What is it about me that I'm empowering you to throw me off center? What is it about me, about my beliefs, that I'm now in some kind of a spiral and I've lost my way? So yes, self-awareness, but there's two levels of self-awareness. One is simply the ability to observe how you're thinking and feeling in any moment. And the other is your ability to introspect rather than project when you are having those moments of upset, stress, and tension. I hope that was helpful for you, Patricia. That was a great question. Let me go back here, close that, move that. Okay. I hope that was helpful for you guys. I'm going to move on from mindset. So if you've got any, if you've got any other thoughts or questions about it, you can just throw it in the chat or just make a note to yourself. All right, and just go back to that model. Again, you'll be getting these slides. For those of you that really like this stuff and really can see the value of having this kind of a model as your part of your framework, you can take a picture of this and put it on your screensaver or print it and put it up in your office or your workstation. My primary care physician actually took some of my empowerment work and some of my training seminars, and when I would go in for an appointment with her, I would see my consciousness model on her up above her desk, because she would use it and often talk to her patients about it when people were resigned about their health or resigned about their habits or whatever, and help them understand that this is a self-empowerment model that shows people that even though you might be feeling in this lower levels right now, I might be feeling beaten down by life or upset about something right now, you don't have to stay there. You don't have to be the victim of your own, your own consciousness. You don't have to be the victim of your own beliefs. This is where this model is very, very much centered in a sense of self-empowerment. All right, let's go on to the skill set. So again, going back to the model, mindset is key. If you don't change your mindset, I can teach you skills forever that won't really help you over time, because it's your mindset that really is the foundation of how you experience life. So when I teach the skill set, I like to ask people this question: are you being busy or productive? And just with me, putting those two words on the screen, I'm sure like it evokes an inner world for you, maybe some curiosity or maybe some sense of like, oh, wow, there's perhaps a difference. I like to ask people, like, what's the energy even of that? Let's just start with that word busy. What's the energy of that word when you say that, oh, I'm so busy, or you hear from a friend or a colleague, oh my God, I'm so busy. What's the energy? What's the vibe that you feel in that? Just go ahead and drop that in the chat. Let me see. Oh, great. Oh my gosh, I should have scrolled down. Frantic, overcommitted. Yep, frantic, overcommitted, overwhelmed. Exactly right. The spirals like this are great. I use them 2 separate spirals. Oh, good. Right, exactly right. So there's a sense of like, oh my God, I'm caught up. I can't listen, right? Not frantic, frenetic. Thank you, Susanna. I appreciate that. So even just that word. Why? Because language has energy to it. So the language that you use is creative. The language that you use is creative. This is a coaching phrase, so bear with me. How you language your world is how you experience your world. Okay, how you language your world is how you experience your world. So again, when you walk around saying, we already covered, I don't have time. So now we've got that one out of your vocabulary, yes. So the other one that you now want to get out of your vocabulary is, I'm so busy. So it's just one of the things that I really seek to never say. And it's not like I'm sitting around eating bonbons, watching daytime TV, but I just don't choose to say that. Rather, I like to say to people, never busy, always productive. Never busy, always productive. Why? Because I want to constantly be infusing my consciousness with the experience I want to have. So let me ask you, thank you, Allison. What is the energy, the vibe of that word productive? When you say my God, I was so productive today. I had a really productive week. When you say that, what's the energy or the vibe of it? Just drop that in the chat. Thank you. I love the distinction between the two words. Me too, Anne. It was really helpful. Right, a sense of relief. Oh my God, I was so productive today. Relief, what else? Right, feels positive. Tamara, exactly. Anybody else? It's a high vibe, right? Alignment with purpose. I love that, Sonia. That's great. So when you say, again, all we're talking about here is language, accomplishment, and helpfulness. We're talking about language, but we're not just talking about language. We're talking about the energy or the vibratory pattern that we are creating through how we language our world. So because this is such a central part to my teaching, I've actually developed a set of qualities and characteristics that I have found over the 20 years I've been teaching this of people that I call chronically busy or meaningfully productive. So I want to go through some of these qualities and characteristics because look, guys, if you're not looking at yourself in this presentation, you're not going to get the benefit. So you want to look to see how much do these qualities fit how you are living your life right now. So the qualities and characteristics that I associate with a person who's chronically busy is kind of scattered, disorganized, random, like I can do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, reactive, right? It's like, oh my God, oh, now I got to do that. Oh, now I got to do that. So like that constant reactivity, stressed, overwhelmed. It's someone who sees time as the enemy, right? Like, like the problem is time, right? Time as an enemy. And there's the sense of being driven and anxious. So just look. Now, I'm going to quickly go over to productive, and then I'm going to put the two of them side by side for you. So these are the qualities and characteristics over my years of teaching and training on this topic that I've developed about a person that I see as meaningfully productive. And it is this, they're intentional, like, a sense of direction, where they're going, orderly, planned, responsive. So they see what's coming in, but rather than living in that chronic reactivity, they see what's coming in and they're able to respond to it. Optimized. Optimized is a quality and characteristic that I say is the perfect balance of like good stress. So you're stretched and challenged, but not overwhelmed. You don't want to not be stretched and challenged because you'd be bored if you're not stretched and challenged, but you don't want to be so stretched and challenged that you're unoverwhelmed. So that's what I call optimized. They're centered, enthusiastic, and inspired. They see time not as the enemy, but as an opportunity. All I have is time. What I do with my time is up to me. It's a blessing. Time is my life. That is all we have. They're more a sense of being at ease because they're clear about their sense of direction because of that sense of intentionality. So, oops, sorry. All right, so now I'm just going to put these side by side, and I want you to just go ahead and take a look at them and see what you see for yourself. Where are you most often operating as you look at this grid? And if you have questions about any of them, what if my boss is ADHD and busy and I can't get to productive? That's a great question. Being comfortable with yourself, self-compassion is key. Yes, absolutely. It's great. I'm practicing literally, not doing things and letting the dishes sit, trying to feel okay about it. It's awesome. The difference is choice. Yeah, Sonia. The difference is choice. I'm not sure I understand that. We have the power. Yes. We have the power to choose a different option, which all starts with self-awareness and changing your mindset. If you're living in survival consciousness, you literally do not feel like you have the choice, Sonia, just so you have that distinction. And if you're in stress consciousness, you might feel like you have a choice, but you're going to be pretty angry about it, quite honestly. Yes, victim mentality, exactly. Motivation might be important too. Patricia, I'll tell you what I say about motivation is it's nice when it's there, but it's not necessary. The words that I like to use are clarity and commitment, passion and direction. Because honestly, look, I've written 3 books, traveled all around the world, delivering these programs. I train coaches all around the world. I don't wake up motivated every day, quite honestly. I just don't, but I'm super committed and I'm really passionate. So if motivation isn't present, can you draw on something else? So I want to go back to the question about what if I have a boss who's ADHD and busy and I can't get to productive. I'll just tell you a story that one of my students of this program a couple of years ago did. It was very, very interesting. When I was teaching this section, she's like, oh, I've got a sign that says that, don't bother me, can't you see that I'm very, very busy? Like she had that, like a crafty little kind of sign, don't bother me, can't you see I'm very busy? Like that, it was a wooden sign. She said, I've got that at home, it's perfect to tell people to leave you alone. Well, she took that sign into her workplace and she put it on the copy machine and made a copy of it, right? Okay, so she's got it now on a piece of paper. And she took the word busy and she crossed it out with a big red X and she wrote over it, productive. Don't bother me, can't you see I'm being productive? And she put that up on her office door. Okay, simple thing to do. She really liked the concept. And so people started noticing. And I know people aren't in workplaces right now, but stay with the story, okay? So people started noticing the sign on her door and they started asking her about it. And she said, well, I'm in this program, this coaching course, and here's what I'm learning. And she showed them this grid. It's in my workbook, Calming the Chaos workbook. She showed them this grid. And people were like astounded. The 3 or 4 or 5 people that stopped by her office, they're like, this is why we get nothing done here. Because our workplace is chronically busy. No one is meaningfully productive. And they encouraged her to bring it into their next staff meeting. And she did. And it changed the culture of their company. So I don't know your boss, and I can't say again that this is going to be the solution to everything. But when you start changing mindset, when you start changing paradigms, people's behavior will shift. So that may be something that you just take a copy of this grid and bring it into your workplace, bring it in with your boss and just say, hey, I went to a webinar and this gal was teaching about this concept. What do you think? And just begin a conversation. Great, I'm glad that was helpful. How do you teach commitment to a teenager with ADHD? Would that come with maturity? Patricia, I don't know, come on over, we'll have a cup of coffee and talk about our teenagers. How's that? Patricia, all I can say is I'm living that life. I'm living that life for sure. How I attempt to teach commitment is through modeling it. I have a teenage daughter who has ADHD. Any advice? Yeah. Sarika, I don't know if you missed my introduction. I have a teenage son with ADHD, and I myself have been diagnosed with adult ADHD as well. So how I best, try to teach commitment and these concepts to my son is by modeling it. I do tell him, we don't say I'm really busy. He definitely, even when he was little, he's like, oh, we've got to get things cleaned up around here. Everything is so chaotic, and even when he was little, he would say that. So he does like having an orderly physical environment, which is part of what I teach in a larger program of this, of keeping an orderly physical environment. I think, showing them this grid, showing this grid to anybody who's struggling with this is really helpful. Teenagers they're developing their skill set, but they have very little self-awareness. Most teenagers, anyway, the frontal lobes aren't connected yet. Self-awareness comes with executive functioning. So when that happens, they don't have the capacity for introspection. So the best thing you can do is model what it is that you want them to see. It's not gonna, again, nothing I'm gonna, and no one thing I'm saying to you tonight is gonna be the answer. But if you put, you start stacking some of this stuff together, and I really do believe you'll have a different experience. All right, I'm gonna move on from this, but I hope this is a useful concept to me. It is critical to the skill set that you first identify, where am I? As visual learners, is there a resource to teach them for visual learners? Patricia, I don't know. You know, this grid, my spiral model. I mean, I try to do a lot of visuals. You know, I try to do a lot of visuals with my teaching, grids like this and my spiral model. So you can take a grid like this and start, you know, just looking at it with your kids. Oh, Patricia, I mean for kids. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there are other visual models. I'm sure there are. I just don't know what they are. Let me see. Is there anything else I want to say about this? I think I'm going to leave it there. Let me just see. Awesome. So the next thing that I want to address about, again, remember where we are in the model, right? We've dealt with mindset. We are now talking about skill set, identifying where you are. Am I more on the busy than on the productive side? And oh, by the way, I've taught this section to literally thousands and thousands of people. 95% of them are heavily weighted on the left-hand side. That is the culture we are living in. You are being trained to be busy, not productive. So you wake up in the morning into this culture on the left-hand side of your screen. You wake up in that. You've got to intentionally, with clarity, train yourself to be moved to the right side of the screen. And that's what we're going to deal with in the next part of our work together today. But before I move on to that, you know, again, I say address and resolve what's draining you. So what do I mean by that? Part of the skill set that is so important when you're talking about managing your energy rather than your time is that energy, like let's say when you wake up in the morning, you've got 100 volts of energy, right? In your system, in your body, in your being. You know, you've got these 100 volts of energy that you wake up with, and you get up and you go to the bathroom in the morning, or, you know, start your morning routine, and you see your teenager's pile of clothes still in the middle of the bathroom floor, and then you go to the kitchen and the dirty dishes are in the sink, and you know, you're upset about that, and then you drive to work and the car has got a stain on the seat and it's got a rattle underneath, and you know, then you get to work and you check your bank account and it's not what you thought it was going to be, right? All of these, so, you know, it's only like 9 a.m. It's 9:30 in the morning, and your 100 volts of energy are already down to 35. Because you lost energy about the laundry, you lost energy about the dishes, you lost energy about the stain on the seat, you lost energy about, you get where I'm going with this? These little irritations, whether it's in relationships or finance or your home environment or your workplace, these little irritations are what I call energy busters. Things that drain your energy will make you more stressed and less effective. So one of the places that I want you guys to look after, you know, after kind of as you reflect on what you've heard tonight, is where are you draining off energy in your life that you could actually address it and create a different experience? Where could you empower yourself to have a better experience at home? So just to give you concrete examples, and just check the chat. Just to give you some concrete examples, things that drain my energy are a cluttered environment. I tell my spouse, it's like visual noise. For me with ADHD, I can't work in a noisy environment. I also can't work in a cluttered environment. I don't feel good in a cluttered environment. So one of the things for me is that I keep our home, you know, really orderly, picked up, and, you know, and clean. Order is a high consciousness principle. The whole universe operates through intricate order. So as much as you can, you want to bring that sense of order into your life, into your relationships. What does that mean? Well, I don't know. I'm not you. But for me, it means I declutter a lot. I give stuff away all the time. I keep my car clean. I take, you know, if my son's coming home from a sporting event or whatever, it's like, no, take your cleats, no, get your, you know, pick up your dishes, you know, let's put things away. That for me is one. I don't let it linger and sit around wondering, you know, what are they thinking? Ooh, I got a message that my internet is unstable. Can you guys see and hear me okay? Yeah, I'm good. Okay. So in relationships, if something is, you know, kind of a miss in a relationship, so just, I'll give you an example from last night in how I handled to keep my energy intact. I had invited a friend of my son's over for to do something for Halloween. And for like the second or third time in a month, the mom, texted me back and she's like, no, just, one sentence, no, she's not available. And, I was like, it's like the third time that she'd said that. So I was just like, does she not like him? Is there an issue? So I just said, hey, look, thanks for letting me know. I just want you to know I'm just super direct. So I would rather know, like, is there some issue that you don't want your daughter hanging with my son? Is there something about him that you're concerned about? I would rather just know. And if there is, that's fine. Just please tell me what it is so we can be in conversation about it. And she texted me, she's like, no, absolutely not. I'm worried about COVID. I don't want my daughter out. Right. So, but instead of, and a lot of people wouldn't do that. They'd go to bed like, what is it about him? Ooh, what's the matter? Or the next time that they see that mom, they'd be like, a little standoffish. You know what I'm talking about? These are the kinds of ways that's, when you do that, when you do the standoffish thing, you're empowering a negative narrative. When you just say, hey, look, I'm just really direct. Is there something about this? And she's like, yeah, no, absolutely not. Here's what's going on for me. I got COVID concerns. Then whoosh, my energy is restored. Right. So I had that thought, is there a problem, with this situation or with my son? Oh, my energy maybe went down, whatever, let's make it up 10, 20 degrees. And then I got it cleaned up and whoo, my energy is restored. Right. So we have this in all of the domains of our life. You got something with your boss, you got something with your spouse, whatever it is. Address and resolve. Now, of course, you might not be able to resolve every single one. I get it. But address and resolve as best you can those areas of life that are draining you. So I'm encouraged to just be kind, but be direct, right? Initiate, don't worry. This is power. Oh, good. I'm so glad that this is powerful. That's powerful. Good. I'm so glad. Don't wait. Initiate. Don't wait. Initiate. I like that. I might steal that. I love this strategy. Lay out spoons just as a practice to remove them as the day goes. That is so smart, Allison. Lay out spoons just as a practice and remove them as the day goes on. When you notice that something is draining your energy, right? Just remove a spoon or a stone or a rock or something and assume the best intentions. That's a great high energy strategy, Lisa. I like that. Okay, so this is the whole, let me see, I think I'm good. Yeah, this is the whole skill set area that we've managed. Again, just a quick review: mindset, your energy, your consciousness, the 4-level model. Am I in survival? What can I do? Talk to myself, use my higher mind, use my self-awareness to rise my vibe. Skill set, am I busy or productive? Where am I draining off energy? Where am I right now? What's my skill set right now? And what do I need to do to move myself more from busy into the productive realm? Okay, and now we're going to move into the last part, which is what I call your tool set. And, people are like, oh, Jackie, what apps do you use? What productivity planners do you use? And I'll tell you, it's very, very simple for me. So first off, kill your to-do list. That's just the first premise. We got to swallow the big frog first, puke up that fur ball, because nobody likes getting rid of their to-do list. But I don't mean don't use a structure. I don't mean don't use the structure. But what I want to ask a question, but I won't, because, I just want to keep this moving. But why do I say kill your to-do list? Let me tell you. I say to-do lists are a setup for failure. And the reason that I say that is not because I don't like having an external structure. I do. I love having an external structure. But to-do lists have no bearing or orientation in time. To-do lists have no bearing or orientation in time. Therefore, what I most often find when I coach people is that their to-do lists, are this long, 1.5 pages of to-do lists, and their available unaccounted for time is this big. And then they walk around saying, what's the matter with me? Why don't I get stuff done? I should be more effective than that. Look at Jackie. I'll bet she's more productive than that. What's the matter with me? There's nothing the matter with you. It's that you've never learned to orient your tasks in time. Okay, so to-do lists, I say, are set up for failure, not because it's a bad external structure. It's not a bad structure. Getting things out of your head and into a structure is really, really an important skill. However, just having things on a random list, maybe it's prioritized, maybe it's not, I don't know, that doesn't matter. But if it's not oriented in time, you never learn how long things really take. Therefore, you highly underestimate how long things actually take to get done. You highly underestimate how long it takes things to get done. And again, you walk around, what's the matter with me? I thought I was going to get that done in a half hour. Here I am, 3 hours later, I'm still doing it. There's nothing wrong with you. You just haven't developed that skill set yet. Does that make sense? So kill your to-do list. Well, what do you do instead? Because I said I like structure. So I'm going to give you kind of my 4 or 5 steps. I'm not sure what I have exactly, but I'm going to give you my 4 or 5 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 steps of what to do instead. So first of all, I want you to just kind of puke it up, write down everything you need to do this week, or I actually have people start writing down everything you need to do for the rest of your life, but that's a more intense program. So just write down everything you need to do this week, right? Let's just start there. And I mean everything. Capture all of your tasks. Done this with thousands of people. What most people put in their schedule is face-to-face appointments and meetings. And everything else lives in your head. Your head is not a structure. Your head is not a structure. Things disappear. You forget. And you only have so much neurological real estate. The more you try to hold in your head, the more stress you are creating. So when I say capture all of your tasks, I really mean everything that you need to do. Not just go to the meeting, but do you have to drive to the meeting? Do you have to prepare for the meeting? What do you need to do so that the meeting is effective? If you're writing a book, you're not just writing the book. You've got to research the book. You've got to talk to publishers about the book. Like whatever the task is, has a bunch of subtasks in them. Whatever the meeting is, there's a bunch of things that have to happen before and after the meeting. All of that stuff for most people lives in your head. So the first step, if you want to begin using this method of tool set, is capture all of your tasks. The next is just organize them, break them down into steps. So if it's a meeting, what is it that you need to do for the meeting? Do you have to do some research? Do you have to send an email to somebody? Like, what do you actually have to do? When I was writing my 3 books, if I just put on my schedule, write the book, I would look at that on my schedule and my mind would go blank because I wouldn't know what that meant. So I used this method. I broke down the project, this very big project of writing a book, into actionable activities that I could then actually tell myself what to do. Write the first section of chapter 2, finish the outline for chapter 3. Right? So specific tasks. Why? Otherwise, your mind goes blank. You don't know what to do. So organize them into steps. Next one, place each of those steps into your schedule in a time slot. Now, you're like, well, I can't do that. I don't know when I'm going to do it. Exactly. That's the problem. That's why you're living with so much stress and overwhelm, because you have all these things that you have to or want to do, and you have no idea when you're going to do it. So you walk around like, when am I going to get this done? When am I going to get this done? When am I going to get this done? All I'm saying is write it all down and decide. Now, you may have to change it. I get that. That's okay. Doesn't mean you can't, change things around. But place each item on your schedule. So you're like, well, I can't place, 5 things, or 6 things in an hour. Well, why not? Often what's in my I usually put a copy of my schedule in this, in my PowerPoints, and I forgot to do that for tonight, so I'm sorry. But like often what's in the hour, you actually can't see all of the items, but when I click on it, all of the items show up, right? Or maybe you want to put in your schedule, run errands, but then in the notes section, you could actually put the 4 or 5 notes, 4 or 5 errands that you're going to run. The point is, get out of your head and start orienting your life in time. And then the last, is this the last? Yeah, this is the last piece. Review your plan at least twice a day. And I say in the mornings, first thing you do, what am I doing today? I love this. My schedule tells me what to do. Yes, I'm the one populating my schedule, but my schedule tells me what to do. Otherwise, I walk around like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. What am I going to do next, right? So I check my schedule all the time, pretty much hour to hour, quite honestly. And if I have to change it, I change it. Today, I had a meeting with people on the West Coast, and they had said 10 a.m., so I had it in my calendar at 10 a.m. They actually meant 10 a.m. Pacific time. So, I had to adjust my schedule accordingly today. I had to email somebody, move my 1 o'clock meeting to some other time. So yes, you have to adjust your schedule, but being that organically involved with your commitments and what your tasks, what you want to get done, you are so much more productive by spending, I spend like a half hour, 20 minutes at the end of the week thinking about my next week. So Friday afternoons, midday Fridays, I populate my whole next week. Now, that has to change throughout the week, but that's fine. And then every morning, I check my schedule. And at the end of every day, listen to this part, critical. At the end of every day, I go back and look at my schedule and see what I didn't get done. What had to get moved, what took too long, what took longer than I thought it was going to. And I move that item forward in my schedule. This is I've taught this to so many people, and everybody is like so overwhelmed at first until they start using it. So let me just tell you a couple things about using this method. First off, if you decide to start using it, you will be very tired. You will be tired. Why? Because you're not used to thinking through your day and your tasks at that level, and it requires you changing your neural pathways. It requires you changing the way that you think. When you change your neural pathways, it's fatiguing. So the pitfall here is that you'd be like, well, this is bunk. She doesn't know what she's talking about. This doesn't work. I'm more tired now than I was before. Nope, that's actually good news. If you're finding for the first week or two that you're more tired, it means that you're starting to rewire your neurology around these methods, and it is actually working. If you stick with it through week 3 and 4, you're going to find your productivity and peace of mind go through the roof. It does not happen immediately, though. I'm seeing a bunch of questions on chat. Tips for the first big, yeah, that's a great question. I'm overwhelmed just imagining that. That's so funny. Dana, I get it. It is overwhelming at first, but it's actually really fun once you get into it, because you feel, it's overwhelming at first. Absolutely. Believe me, I have ADHD. And when I wrote this program to deal with my own ADHD, and it was overwhelming at first, but once I got over that inertia of it being too hard, it was super fun. And I really enjoyed it. You might want to get a buddy if it feels overwhelming. All right, let me just address a couple of these questions. Tips for the first big brain dump. Yes, first tip, schedule it. Do it at a specific time that you know you're not going to be interrupted and that you're not tired. So don't do it at 9 o'clock at night. Kind of do it first thing in the morning or where you're feeling fresh, and bring some enthusiasm to it. Like this is your life, right? So if writing that list feels like you're going to a funeral, there's something seriously wrong here. I have a program called Life Design that will deal with that issue. But really, this is your life. This is what we're talking about. This is what you are committing your life force energy to. So, right? So bring some enthusiasm to it, bring some self-empowerment to it, and just give yourself, I would say give yourself like 20 minutes for the first run, and then maybe a couple more 10-minute sections to kind of, or just carry it in your memo pad on your phone and keep adding to it throughout the day, because you're going to keep thinking of things that should be on your schedule. So those would be the tips. I wonder if you're talking about doing versus producing concepts, about doing versus being. Consciousness, state of mind, embodied beingness, and productivity is an outcome of that. Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. I am and I'm not talking about doing versus being. I am, given that when you bring this level of awareness and intentionality to how you live your life, it raises your consciousness. Therefore, you can be more engaged in the being element of life while you're doing, right? So you can be, I'm doing all the time, but I'm present all the time, because I am not living with that cloud of, when am I going to get this done? Oh, I should have done that. Why aren't I being more effective? I'm not living in that cloud. I'm also not living in the cloud of how somebody else is telling me I should feel, how someone else is telling me I should be living. I'm clear that this is my life, my design. And how I know is all I have to do is look at my schedule. Here's a pro tip for those of you who are really geeking out on this with me. I color code my schedule according to my core values. So at any moment when I open my calendar, what I see reflected back to me is me. So I have a color for my mission, my career, my work. I call it my mission. I have a color for family, a color for well-being, spiritual and physical well-being, and I have a color for maintaining my environments, taking care of things, you know, errands, home, that kind of thing. So the more that you get skilled at managing the doing elements of life, the more the being elements of life just naturally rise, because you're present. You're actually, you know, doing the dishes when you're doing dishes, and enjoying time with your spouse when you're enjoying time with your spouse. Not, you know, doing the dishes thinking, oh, I should be spending time with my spouse, or not spending time with your spouse like, oh my God, I got to do the dishes. You can actually, you know, you can actually be present in the moment doing what you're doing, because you've decided you're the one who's creating your life. There's so many great comments. Love this. Me too. Great. Thank you. Color code schedule. Yeah, I do. I color code my schedule according to my values. That was a pro tip for those of you who are geeking out with me. Is this similar to Buju? I don't know what Buju is, so I don't know. Is it like creating a budget for your brain and time? That's beautiful, Christina. Is this like creating a budget for your brain and time? You know, again, I'm going to be plugging my other programs, but I wrote a book called Money Vibe, right? So I wrote a book called Calming the Chaos about time. I wrote a book called Money Vibe about money. What do you think the book is, right? It's the same book. You know what I mean? It's the same book. It's just one is about time, the other is about money. It's the same philosophy. It's the same approach. So yes, this is like a budget for your brain and and how you're using time. Absolutely. Electronic or paper. Benali, I am big on electronic because I like to use recurring events. So for those of you that are making the shift from paper to electronic, be very gentle with yourselves. It is not easy to do, but do it. It's really worth it. Get a buddy that can help you. It's just so much more efficient to be able to use electronic scheduling mostly because of recurring events, and you can have it with you all the time. If you lose it, it's backed up someplace. All right, so let me see. Awesome, we're doing well. So, oh gosh, and then there's this, right? So how many of you are procrastinators, right? So, you know, one of the things I like to teach in this program is that you could be like, oh, that's fine, I'm going to schedule all these. But I've said multiple times, you might have to change it. That's okay, right? So what I know is that some of you are slippery and you might just keep changing your schedule. Like, you know, oh, I didn't get to it. Oh, I didn't get to it. Well, that's just sophisticated procrastination. And I don't want you to do that. So I have a rule in this program to end your procrastination. And it looks like this. It's called the 3 strikes rule. And what it means is it's okay to move things in your schedule. You have to be organic with your schedule when you're scheduling at this level. However, you only get to move a thing 3 times. And then you just got to tell the truth about it. Like, are you going to do it or not? Because otherwise it just becomes sophisticated procrastination. So that's the 3 strikes rule. Put it in your schedule, move it, you know, kid got sick or something came up at work, fine, move it a second time. If you have to move it the 3rd time, you have to ask yourself, am I really going to do this, or should it come off my schedule? Okay, it's just a little quip. So that's our review, right? Your takeaway tips from our time together tonight. First of all, you've got to deal with these 3 areas, not just skills. You've got to deal with how you think, how you operate, and the tools that you're using. The second and the next takeaway tip is to elevate your energy. And what I mean by that is not get more sleep and more exercise. Yes, that's important, but go back to that spiral model. Get yourself out of survival consciousness, out of that stress consciousness by self-talk, managing your energy drains, the energy busters that are in your life, and just thinking about this model. You know, am I in survival consciousness, and do I have to be? Using your self-talk, your awareness, your higher mind. Next one, stop saying I don't have time. Just, you know, get that out of your vocabulary. Stop saying I'm too busy. Change your language. When you change your language, it changes your energy, changes your vibe. Shift on that paradigm from being not just busy, but be productive. Shift from the left to the right in your skill set. Now, look, I'm still working on this one. So again, it's not like you're, you know, next week going to move from being busy to productive. But if you go through each one of those elements and look to see what does it take to shift, you know, from being, you know, scattered and random to clear and intentional. Well, what I just taught you on tool set is going to make a huge difference. If you take that one thing, you will shift from being busy to productive. And then, you know, so what are the benefits to all of this? You know, your head, first of all, and this is such a benefit, your head gets quiet. You can actually be present. You can actually be in the moment and experience yourself in the being nature rather than a human doing. Sorry. The next one is you get a lot more done. You get a lot more done because you're so much more clear. You're not constantly reacting to the next thing. You can actually respond. You can look at your schedule and be like, okay, I have to attend to this, but I can move this over here. You get a lot more done. Then you're more clear about what you're doing rather than, you've got that 2 hours in the afternoon where you don't have anything scheduled. And it's like, oh God, I have so much to do. I have so much to do. What am I going to do? Do y'all know that feeling? It's like your head is just too clouded. So you just get really clear and you don't have those moments of like, crap, I know I've got so much to do, but what am I going to do? And then, what do? You do email, you check Facebook, and then you got a half hour you left and it's like, oh, well, I can't really get anything done now, right? So don't do that to yourself any longer. Get clear about what you're going to do. And then the last one, of course, you just feel a whole lot better. And at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about. All right, so thank you, Susanna. That's very kind. Are you a file or pile organizer? That's really funny, Lisa. I don't have much paper any longer, but when I do, I definitely use files. I actually just got mad at my spouse the other night because she got rid of one of our file cabinets, and I've moved back from DC to Massachusetts, and I have some things like, the vet paperwork and some medical reports for my son, some things that I have in paper, and we don't have a file cabinet here. And I was like, so I yelled at her. So yeah, I am an organizer, not a piler. I used to be a piler when I was younger, and it's just, I've trained myself to go from that sense of chaos to a sense of order and calm. Electronic, I love the 3 strikes rule. All right, so does anybody have questions? I don't know. Yeah, we've got like about 7 minutes for questions. If anyone, I don't know with the moderators, if people can take themselves off mute to actually interact and talk with me, is that possible?
Possibly. I totally encourage anybody to jump in and ask a question.
Yeah, oh great. So just if you have a question, take yourself off mute and I'll just talk to a few of you.
And if you can't chat and let me know and I'll take you off if you can't.
Yeah. Rajesh. Yeah. Essentialism is a great book. I've read that. Yes. And I was so ticked because that became a New York Times bestseller and Calming the Chaos didn't. And it's essentially the same book. But yes, that's a really good read. Yeah. Susanna?
Question is about prioritization. So
yeah. People always ask me that. Yeah, right. So I do not teach A, B, and C, the Covey method, Stephen Covey method, A, B, and C prioritization because your C's never get done. And so my question is not, is it a priority, but is it something that you want to accomplish with your life? Is this something that you're going to do? Yes or no? If you're going to do it, put it on your schedule. So I don't use prioritization. I do use time reference. Like if I have, I have things I want to do, write this book or write this chapter in my book or do a report that's due tomorrow. Obviously, I'm going to do the report that's due tomorrow on my schedule, but I'm also going to have writing the book on my schedule. So I don't do prioritization like A, B, and C because your C's never get done. And to me, it's about commitment, not priority. Like I'm committed to both. It's just a matter of how soon do they both need to get done. Good question, Susanna. Allison, did you want to ask me something? No?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm sorry. I can ask you a zillion things. I did send you, I think I'm learning I usually don't use private chat, and so I didn't.
Oh, you sent me a private chat. Okay, so anybody who sent me a private chat, I might not get it because once we shut this off, I won't have, because I'm not the host, I won't have access to that. So my email is jackie@jackiewoodside.com. And you could just copy whatever it is. And I would, I'd love to hear from any of you guys.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, so I'm an educational consultant and tutor in the DC area. And this presentation, just by the way, far exceeds what I was expecting.
Well, thank you.
I just didn't have a real great frame of reference, but I knew this sounded important and really wanted to sign up for it. And I invited other people as well. But I mean, pretty much everything you're saying, I can resonate with. And I do have a learning disability as well. So people, I start with a new client, for example, and I get, really engaged and whatnot, but I have to really pace myself.
Yeah. Allison, I'm going to ask you to just cut to the question, if you will, because I know there's a bunch of other people that want to ask me things. I'm sorry.
The question is, are you how do I say this? Can people hire you and pay you to consult with them? Or
Yes,
coach them?
yes, I do individual coaching. I've also trained a bunch of coaches in this work, in the Calming the Chaos work. So you can, work with me. I developed it. And I also have other coaches. But yes, again, my email is jackie@jackiewoodside.com.
Great.
I also want to tell you guys, I have a really fun Facebook group called the Vibe Tribe. And it's a lot about my consciousness work. And it's just a happy, high vibe. It's just people love that group. So I want to invite all of you to come over. It has my picture on it. I guess there's a few Vibe Tribes on Facebook, but mine's by far the coolest. I'm just saying. So please come there on Facebook. It's called the Vibe Tribe. You should be able to find it. I can't remember what color the banner is, but it has a picture of me on the banner. So that's your clue. And it's, you can post things there. It's not just reading. You can post and interact. And it's a really, really cool group of people. All right. Anybody else? Maggie, did you have a question for me?
No.
Maggie? No. Okay. I saw you were off mute. I just wanted to ask you that. Okay. Cheryl, 27. We have 3 minutes left. Anybody wants to ask me anything? Yeah, Lisa, go ahead.
So when there's something that keeps coming up on your list, you're not accomplishing it, and you're feeling like you're just you're failing at it. So,
Yeah. Yep.
So there's definitely a point in here, I guess, when you're reevaluating.
Yeah. That's why the 3 strikes rule.
For doing that, to say, it's on my list, but can't do it. So
Right. It shouldn't be on your list. It should be on your schedule, first of all.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's first of all, get it off your list and get it on your schedule. If it's your 3rd time and you've not done it, yeah, that's when you have, I don't know if this is an inappropriate phrase, but I say come to Jesus moment. Like, are you going to do it or not? Is this a value of yours or not? So one of the things I did with one of my coaching clients, yeah, Lisa, go ahead.
I'm not talking about something I'm procrastinating about, but something you're genuinely working on, but you're failing.
So meaning you're not doing anything on it, or you're doing stuff and it's not effective?
Working at it and you're not being effective. Yeah.
Oh, got it. That's great. Wow, good for you. So first of all, I have an interesting relationship with failure. I like to tell people, if you are not failing on a regular basis, you are not playing a big enough game. Right? So congratulations to acknowledge that you are failing and that you are failing on a regular basis. Good for you. Yeah. So then my second thought would be, sounds like you need a greater skill set. Right? That's always where I just go back to the model. So it doesn't sound like you've got a mindset issue at all. In fact, I appreciated that you interrupted me because I wasn't answering the question you were asking. That's beautiful self-empowerment. A lot of people be like, oh, she's the expert, I'll let her go. Shut up, man. Just tell me what you need. It's so much better. Right? So so it doesn't sound like a mindset issue to me. Doesn't sound like a procrastination issue. It sounds like a skill set issue. So then what do? You hire a coach. If you don't have the money or the resources, you don't want to do that, then you go to YouTube and Google, and you can freaking learn anything, or any of these other kind of free universities. Udemy, I guess, is one of them. There's a bunch of free universities out there. My God, you can learn anything on the internet, right? Isn't that part of the problem? This time it's like everything is just so interesting. You can learn anything these days. All right. 1 minute left. We can either wrap up or somebody can ask me a really quick question really fast. I will turn it back over to the moderators. Thank you so much. Anyone who wants to contact me, please, grab me on Facebook at the Vibe Tribe, or Jackie Woodside Speaker is another Facebook page I have. I'm not as active there. And my email is jackie@jackiewoodside.com. So my book is Calming the Chaos, Money Vibe, and Time for a Change. And I'm easy to find. Would love to work with any of you.
Thank you, Jackie, so much. I did put the YouTube Vibe Tribe link in the chat if you guys want to click on it.
The Facebook, not YouTube. The Facebook.
Facebook.
Oh, thank you so much. That's the link. Yeah, yeah, just go on over. I'd love to see you guys there.
Thank you very much. This has been absolutely imperative. As Chad, we grew as a organization to support parents with children, but we also realized that through the lifespan that people with ADHD go through these different iterations, and the adult part is something that we're building on as an organization, and we're just really grateful for you to be able to speak to that kind of need for our adult ADHD.
Yeah, and I really want to say that I was diagnosed by Ned Hallowell with ADHD, and I was a freaking train wreck. 15, 20 years ago, I was a train wreck. I was depressed. I was on all kinds of medication. I have a history of addiction. I was a train wreck 20 years ago in my life. And it was through my commitment and my fascination really with consciousness studies and understanding that everything is energy. And if I can change my energy and my inner world, I can change anything. And I really, really believe that. So I hope you'll also feel some inspiration from my story, because I am definitely one of those tragedy to triumph kind of gals. I really am happy and effective and productive and really, getting through life the way we all are.
And what a better way to learn is by somebody who's gone through the crap and dealt with it and dragged themselves through the mud and brought themselves up, because it's a humbling experience when other people are struggling. They're like, she experienced some very tragic or dark things. I'm going through it. I feel like we can be in rapport and do the same thing. And
right. I always say that, like, if I can get through, there's nothing special about me, and if I can get through it, anybody can. It was an ugly, dark time in my life, and I'm fine, and I'm really fine. It was through really my commitment to these principles that changed my life.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, everybody, for attending. You'll all get the slides and the recording of this wonderful lecture. And we hope you'll continue to support Chad any way you can, or just be present, come on and like some stuff that we post. And have a good rest of your evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. I really enjoyed our time together. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay.
Yeah, if you can leave that up just so I can, is there any way you guys can copy this and send it to me? I mean, what is this gal saying? Name of a friend and doctor in Boston, Dr. Marga Zaraga, Light Load Wellness on Facebook is a closed group. This is what I'm starting, but you are taking this toward the daily nature of how. Yeah, okay. I didn't know, I didn't know if there were any messages I needed to see in particular.
Well, it's interesting. And I, by no means of my own intelligence, did the chats, when I downloaded the recording, the chats came out as, you could read all the chats. I was like, I don't know what I did with the settings. I didn't do anything different before or after, but the chats ended up coming out in a form, or like a document form, where you could just read everything.
Oh, wow. Can you send it to me? So the private chat, though, won't show up there.
Not sure. No, I'm not
Right,
sure. I didn't even know how the other part worked. It was very crazy.
Right. All right. So I mean, that seemed to go well. You guys, anything you guys want to say? Any feedback? Anything?
Ladies.
That was fabulous, Jackie. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Who's that, Kathy?
Yeah.
You're not on video, or I can't see you. One or the other.
Sorry.
Oh, and turn off the recording too, so you guys don't have to edit this part out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think we got everybody off.
The recording.